Dear Nigerians, if you are raising children, are you a healthy parent? Is your style of parenting creating a path for openness and genuine, long lasting, and healthy affection between you and the humans you're raising? Or are typical parenting factors in your culture or family history speaking? Typical Nigerian parenting factors. Is your style of parenting leading them to be emotionally safe, self assured, and authentically who they are created to be? Or is it leading them to need time on a therapist's couch in the future? To help you answer these questions, listen to this episode. Dear Nigerians, let's be wholesome parents. On this episode, I sit with Anne Rose Obidi, who is a mother of two and a creator of The African Parent. The African Parent is a valuable and poignant online resource for parents of an African background who are raising children for this century. And on The African Parent, Anne Rose offers a lot of valuable advice as far as how to raise whole and healthy children and to do it from a place of wholeness as a parent. This episode is an invitation to rewrite our history with elements of our cultural parenting that are, well, not very wholesome. Lean in and let's get some insights. All right, dear Nigerians, welcome to our conversation. Dear Nigerians, let's be wholesome parents. And with us, we have Anne Rose Obidi. Anne Rose, I want to say thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. And thanks for having me on here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. As you know, I like to start our conversations with icebreakers. And the icebreaker is always related to the theme of the topic. So the name of this icebreaker is Wholesome or Wahala. Okay. And for those who may be listening and don't know what Wahala means, all right? Wahala is a term that we Nigerians say to mean trouble. Or trouble. Or in the context of this conversation, something that might be chaos or toxic, right? And have some long-term negative impacts. So, Anne Rose, I'm going to throw you a few classic Nigerian parenting moments and approaches to problem solving, okay? Now, I would like you to tell me if it's something we should keep in the culture because it builds character or because it's wholesome, right?
Okay.
Or something we should retire immediately because it's a signal of trauma. So it's wahala. All right?
All right.
Are you ready?
Ready?
Okay. Anne Rose, wholesome or wahala? Your child greets every adult with good morning, sir or ma, whether they know them or not.
Wholesome.
Wholesome. All right. All right. Next one, wholesome or wahala? Therapy, but the therapist is your pastor's wife.
We are retiring that. That is wahala. Yes.
Can you give us 1 point as to why you think it's wahala?
We just have to. It's unnecessary. And also it's the assumption that everybody subscribes to the same brand of religion. Do you see what I mean? So I find it, a lot of times the Bible is misinterpreted to suit, that person's understanding.
Wow.
And that causes a lot
powerful
of issues.
statement. You said it very simply, but it's a powerful statement. Awesome. Thank you for that. All right. Wholesome or wahala? Letting your child disagree respectfully in front of grandma.
Wholesome.
Wholesome. All right. Next one. Let's see. Wholesome or wahala? Letting your child cry without telling them to stop.
Wholesome.
Wholesome. This is what I actually struggled with this one because I have a more emotional child. So like a crying session can be like 20 minutes when we're on the go and there's, you know what I mean? I struggle with this one. I don't know how, I don't know.
That's why I paused because it needs context.
Yeah.
It does need context. So I had to think about it. I'm of the opinion that you're allowed to cry. It's an emotion and I don't want you to stop feeling whatever it is you're feeling.
Right.
And then once you're done feeling that, we have a conversation. 20 minutes, I might pause you in the middle and say, do you want to talk about it now? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does need context.
It's on the way to an appointment, it's just like, okay, yeah, I
But
hear
sometimes if we're in the car, I remember when they're a lot younger and they're crying in the background, I just wind down the window. I find that the air helps. So
Yeah. Practical tools. I love it. All right. Oh my goodness, I love it. Okay, next one, wholesome or Wahala and Rose, using "Do I look like your mate" as a full argument ender.
Wahala, but we're still work in progress. But
Yeah,
it is wahala, yes.
yeah, work in progress. There's some ingrained things, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. I have two more and then we'll get to our conversation. All right. Anne Rose, wholesome or wahala? Allowing your child to pick a non traditional career, whether it's artist, YouTuber, or dancer.
Wholesome. Very
Wholesome.
wholesome.
Wholesome. All right. And last one. Anne Rose, is this wholesome or wahala? Parents speaking in tongues when they find your diary.
Wahala.
What do you say?
Wahala.
Yeah. So I think in the broad context it's wahala, right? But I think if you run it, this is my thought. If you run into something in your child's diary that's like, okay, this is a lot. I think if you are a Christian anyway, you
If
can
it's
yield to
used
the
as
Holy
an
Spirit.
exclamation, then yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for
You're
that
welcome. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to take our contextual, cultural things and just talk about them loosely, right? Absolutely. Well, I want to say thank you again. I want to talk about why we're having this conversation and why I thought this was important. So I'm a millennial and raising two children, two very little children, both under 5 in the US. And so because of where I stand, I get to be with other people who are in my same phase of life and people who are of Nigerian influenced background like myself, who
Yeah.
were born in Nigeria, or maybe born here in the States and they just have a strong Nigerian cultural background. And we are aware, we have all
Yeah.
this, we have all the YouTubers, the gentle parenting, thought leaders, we have all that and we're doing our best. But what I see a lot, myself included, is
Yeah.
that a lot of us, it's very easy in our parenting and our interaction with our children to start replaying traditional Nigerian parenting scripts without even realizing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can give an example. Like a couple weeks ago, I was with my daughter, and there was something heavy that she wanted to play with, and
Yeah.
I said, "Don't play with it," because I typically like to be present with her while she's working with it, and I was like far away in the kitchen. And then suddenly, obviously, she plays with it, and I hear this loud boom, and for me, I quickly, instinctively turn my face towards her with like a
Yeah.
look of alarm in my face. But it wasn't alarm of, I told you not to. It was an
Yeah.
alarm of, are you okay?
Yeah. You
But
heard.
what,
Yeah.
yes. But when my daughter saw me turn like this, she flinched. She was like, don't get me. You know what I mean? And I literally had to stop in that moment, like, no, 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 no. I was coming to help you because I thought you weren't okay.
Oh,
Were you afraid? You know? And I had that instance, as simple and as quickly as it happened, I had to
yeah.
start asking myself, have I been doing things that make her feel in a moment I'm coming to attack her when really I'm actually
Anxious. Yeah.
yes, yes. So a lot of us, if not all, if we've been exposed to it, we have we have those things in us that are playing in our, back in our parenting. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation. And Anne, you've been going through this journey, you're farther along. I think how old are your children?
16 and 12.
16 and 12. You're farther along. You're raising them in the UK, which is the West. And, I wouldn't say the West is a big umbrella term and we're all doing the same things. But I think you are also parenting in a context that doesn't have understanding language. It's not designed for our culture, right?
It's not.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to just, learn about what that process is, especially because I personally read a lot of what you shared on the African parent. Yeah. First of all, I love that it's so honest. It's biting. It
I
very quickly.
try.
Yeah. You know what? Sometimes it's biting, but like I'm reading what you're saying, and I'm like, yes, that was me, that was me. So it's like it gets you really quickly. So I want to thank you for the work that you're doing. I'm going to ask just really quick, just so everyone has context. Can you tell us a bit about your beginnings? What were the experiences that shaped the trials and the triumphs of your parenting journey?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure if we've got enough time
I
for
know,
that,
right?
but I'm going to try and summarize. So first of all, it was for me, it was discovery for myself.
Mm.
And I think it was the first thing of how I didn't want. So I raising my kids, I wanted, obviously with the first kids, you always use them to learn. And I do remember a time, like you just mentioned, my
Yeah.
son had done something and I yelled and he flinched.
Yeah.
And that hurt me because then I
Ah.
myself, oh my God, he doesn't feel safe.
Mm.
So I think that was the defining point for me. And I thought to myself, I want to parent my kids how I wish I was parented. It was
Yeah.
just as simple as that, how I wish I was parented, which is I wanted them to feel they were heard, they had a voice, they could actually challenge certain things because, again, we're not always right. We're
Yeah.
also on this journey with them. And I did say, I say this to my kids all the time. Last week, I was invited for Black History Month in the UK, is in October,
Yeah.
and to sit on a panel as a parent raising Black children in the UK.
Yeah.
And I said that we are raising kids in a world that wasn't created for us.
Yeah.
So it's trying to give them that balance to know that they are whole human beings.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what the world outside tells them,
Yeah.
they know that this is who they are. So again, like I said, it's finding that balance where we know that we do code switch sometimes as human beings, but also telling them stand strong and be proud and
Yeah.
so again, it's a struggle. So I'm not sure if I completely answered your question, but I was just trying to keep it short. But that's kind of how I got into the African parents, talking about my journey. Because also I find that another thing that we don't do very well is talk about our struggles.
Mhm.
And like you said, when you read some of my posts, you can completely relate. And
Yes.
this is a lot of the feedback that I get like, oh my God, some lady reached out to me. She said, "It's like you lived in my house."
Yes.
And so it shows you that, again, it doesn't matter where you're from. There's similarities that, hit out to people. So I do
Yeah.
try to put some humor in what I write, just so that what they say, for the medicine to go down.
Yeah, 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 put some
Yes,
sugar on
yes,
it.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, awesome, awesome, cool. So we do have some listeners that are interested in this topic, but may not necessarily have had like the traditional Nigerian, exposure. So can you share, if you feel comfortable, and if not, we can definitely move on. But if you feel comfortable, can you share what were the elements of the parenting that you did get? Like really quickly. I know that's probably a long story in and of itself, but yeah, what were the elements of the parenting that you did get?
What, the Nigerian parenting?
Yes,
Well,
yes,
I got the smacking, I got the yeah. I'm sure we all did. I got the smacking, I got the yelling at,
yeah,
the raised voices, didn't really have an opinion. And as a kid, I was termed the stubborn one because I had a lot of questions.
yeah,
So again, you realize, if you have, Nigerian parents, depending on their parenting style, you also realize that they don't like questions.
yeah,
They like the obedient child, as I tend to call it, just go and do and don't ask any questions.
yeah,
So that was the upbringing. And even as a teen, I knew it didn't feel right for me because I I search and I search for answers, and not having those answers did not make me feel right. So, but
yeah,
the smacking bit, I think again that was the worst bit for me. We
yeah.
didn't have conversations, and most times I didn't know I got smacked. I just did.
You just got one. Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, that sounds painful. Oh my goodness. Okay. But you said something. You said it's important to be whole, right, with your kids, especially raising whole kids.
Yeah,
In your opinion, how do you define wholesome in an African home, right? And that sounds like a funny question. Wholesome means what it means. But
it
like
does mean a lot of things.
yeah, yeah, but, like, do we have to define what that means in a home, a Nigerian home that has a background of a culture? Like, how would you define it? Are there things in our culture that stay sacred no matter what? And, like, are there things we need to start negotiating as far as being wholesome as parents, but also raising wholesome kids?
I think wholesome, again, it's one of those things that I don't want to say subjective because it
Yeah.
depends on the individual. So for me, it's raising kids who feel emotionally safe to
Mm.
express themselves. It's raising kids who can challenge me in a respectful way.
Yeah.
It's raising kids who go out there and, if they're not comfortable with something, question that.
Yeah.
So for me, that's that wholesomeness. But I'm also big on identity. So which is why, some of our culture comes into that because like when you first asked me, the wholesome or wahala, if my kid goes somewhere and you don't have to know them, everyone's auntie and uncle.
Yeah.
Um, as
Okay.
long as they're older than you, you
Yeah.
know, um, but the difference is I'm saying to them,
Yeah.
you need a name. So Auntie Obi, Uncle this.
Yeah.
Because we just generally just called everyone auntie and uncle. And sometimes when things go wrong, you don't know that auntie's name to kind of pinpoint or that uncle's name and say it was that uncle that did this. So it's
Gosh. Okay.
refining some of the culture that we have to make it work for the world that we're currently living in.
Yeah. I love what you said, and especially that last one. When things go wrong, you need to know that, be able to say, "Was that auntie and uncle that did this?" I'm gonna be really
Yeah,
honest in, like, my own parenting process. Um, Sometimes I even question, should I be having our kids call every single person, at least in the Nigerian context, auntie and uncle? Because the truth is, we live in a world where everyone's not necessarily safe. You know, there are people, especially when your children are young, I see it even sometimes the way the older generation relates with children.
yeah,
There's a little bit of manipulation, you know?
absolutely.
It's like, "Oh gosh, you know, you want some candy? Okay, give me a hug." That's uh.
And this is where the education comes in. This is why I said there's
Yeah,
certain cultural things that we will keep, but you have to give the kids the education behind it. So I say to them, where we come from, as long as somebody is older than you, you've got to it's the auntie and uncle is a form of respect. It's like in schools, you don't call your teachers by their first names. You
yeah,
say Mr. and you say Miss or Mrs.,
right.
right? And
Okay.
that's the auntie and uncle. So again, it's interchangeable because you can say sir or miss this or Mr. that. So it's
Right.
up to you. It does not, but
Yeah.
I always say if they're Nigerian, I prefer auntie and uncle. But
Okay.
also it is, like I said, raising wholesome kids to make them feel safe to express
Right.
themselves. So it doesn't matter if it's an uncle. If you don't feel comfortable,
Right.
say it. So my daughter is she doesn't like strangers touching her. And so she'll say to you, "Oh, I'd rather not have a hug, thank you."
Mm.
And she's comfortable saying that. And because she knows also, I would say, you know, she doesn't want to be hugged if the person insists. So
Right.
that's the thing.
Okay.
It's also teaching them that yes, as much as this is, an older person, auntie and uncle, respectfully, you still have autonomy. You can say no.
Yeah. Well, I love what you said though, as far as like you would also say she doesn't want to be hugged.
Yeah,
That communicates to that person that's insisting, okay, back off, but also communicates to her, mom's got me on this one.
yeah.
And that's important. A lot of us did not have the mom or dad's got me. We didn't. A lot of
How
yeah,
can you say no?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But something you're saying to me, and it's just changing my thinking. Saying auntie or uncle, sir or ma'am, I'm okay with, but saying auntie and uncle, I think for me, I immediately read that as a term of endearment and trust, where it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It's
Yeah,
more respect, right?
respect.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I hear you. Awesome. You just changed the way I thought about that. Thank you.
We
Yeah,
learn every day.
yeah, absolutely. Because you know what? I love our culture. Like
Me
all
too.
you know, I love it. And I wouldn't even say like I'm a master, like I'm Yoruba and there's Yoruba culture, but then there's things that are just generally Nigerian. And I love all of those things.
Yeah, same.
Listen, yeah, I won't call myself a master in the culture, but the things that I've been trained in, there's a difference. It differentiates you. Yeah,
It
it
does.
does. It differentiates your approach, and then you're raising children, and you want them to have that differentiation, so you do have to lean into your culture a bit.
Yes.
Yeah, but some things to be negotiated, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We on Dear Nigerians, we love to tell stories, and this isn't just stories that are made up, but real stories gathered from people's experiences, and then talk about them in context of the topic. So, I have a story here. I want to read it to you. Something I ran across online, and I would just love to hear from you, and we can discuss like what are things you notice here that can be wholesome or a hala, right? And what are things that really speak to you. All right. So this is a tailblazer, as we like to call them. So story. Once upon a time,
Time,
time.
time.
Yeah. The name of the story is called Love But Not Safe. Here we go. I'm a 19-year-old female living in Australia. I was born in Nigeria but left around 2. My parents provided me and my siblings with everything we need to live life, but they were also very absent in many other ways. I am the eldest daughter, and from a very young age, they've been so hard on me. I would get in trouble for the smallest things. I remember once I accidentally shut the car door too loud, and my dad pulled me aside and got physical with me to a terrorizing point. My mom didn't defend me, she instead encouraged my dad's behavior. He eventually apologized, but he apologized saying he wouldn't do that again so he wouldn't accidentally kill me. That's quite strong here. In Australia, we receive a national rank in school called the ATAR, and the highest number you can get on the ATAR is 99.95. That is the top 0.05% of the country in your graduating class. I was set to get a 96, which is the top 4%. But I got so much emotional abuse from my parents because they called me blockhead and idiot because I wasn't meeting their standards, even though I was already performing amazingly. They have wanted complete control of my life by choosing my career. I ended up spiraling in year 12. I still got the high ATAR, but I told my parents I was going to study what I want. This caused, as you would imagine, a massive disagreement and still causes fights. My mom is emotionally manipulative. She had a cardiac arrest when I was 11, and I was the one who got help and called the ambulance. She quite literally wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for God, those amazing paramedics, and myself. However, my mom told me that she had that threatening emergency because of me and my siblings. I ended up finding out at age 16 that she had a pre existing medical condition. Is this what we consider normal parenting? What do you
No.
read in all of this?
There's some things that are triggering there. Yeah, so manipulation, that is classic. I don't wanna say all Nigerian moms,
Yeah.
but I would comfortably say 95%. Um, you know, the dad. Um, I have to say though, my dad didn't smack.
Same,
And
same,
I know very unusual. Yes, my dad
same.
didn't. But I am also conscious that a lot of people grew up in homes where it was the dad that did most of the smacking.
Yeah.
Um, but it's saying, you know, uh, kill her. This is your child. There's
Yeah.
so many things that, that are wrong in reading that thing. And I had goosebumps a bit because talking about her parents being absent, and that's almost a recurring theme that I hear where a lot of kids talk about, my parents provide for me, but it's not just financial provision that
Yeah.
people need.
Yeah.
We need emotional provision, among everything else. And you also want to feel psychologically safe,
Yeah.
which is they're not providing that environment. And then the dad, you know, hitting her and then the mom just standing there and almost encouraging him.
It's a
Where
lot.
do you turn to? Yes. And then again, the lack of autonomy. I want to study what I want to study, but they've got their own idea. And I always say that as parents, our role is to guide our kids and to protect them and give them the tools, right, to go out there into the world, right, and be amazing human beings. but it's not to control them. And I think that's the mistake that we make when we try to raise kids and we think that we have to control them and control every single thing. So again, I'm maybe because of part of what I do at work, I tend to negotiate.
Mhm.
So my son's 16, he's finished his GCSEs and he loves football.
Yeah.
And he got lucky to get offered a scholarship, right? It's not
So,
not necessarily what I want, but I
right.
asked him, "Is
Yeah.
it what you want?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
again, the football it has a very short shelf life, except you're Ronaldo and I'm not very good at football, somebody amazing. Exactly. Then you go to make those millions. So I did say to him, so one of the things was you have to have your GCSEs. That's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And then I said, all right, so you want to do the scholarship. After this, what next? Oh, he's not sure yet. He wants to go ahead and play football. And I said, all right, but what if that doesn't work? So I so for us, because I still wanted to honor him and allow him that autonomy, we agreed because I said, you've always got to have a plan B. So if you do that, because football's very cutthroat and
Yeah.
you don't make it to the team. So we've said the football scholarship, he's in a football academy, it's for a year.
Mhm.
After that year, you're going to go to college.
Yeah.
And he was like, yes. So it is finding a middle ground, finding something that works for both people so he doesn't feel like he hasn't been listened to. He's been listened to. He's doing his football academy. He's in his third month.
Yeah.
And he's enjoying it. And I can see he's become really responsible. Like now I don't even have to worry about anything. And that's because he's doing something that he enjoys. And this is where we forget if we push people into, it's trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. You have to be,
Wow.
again, growing up, we only had four professions.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
everything else, you're a failure. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
which is, yeah. So we really didn't leave a lot of options. As somebody who was neurodivergent, so I had, growing up, I was dyslexic. I'm still dyslexic and I've got ADHD. But
Yeah.
again, growing up, these are things that are not recognized. So I always knew I'm a creative. Book is not for me, right? But I was forced to read.
Yes.
I was forced to read because there was no alternative. Doctor, lawyer, engineer, and maybe accountant.
What I always say, be one of those top 3, and if you just can't do that, fine, we'll settle with finance. Well,
So yes, so this poor child is being raised in a home where it's very toxic, clearly.
yeah.
And then it's interesting how parents now, once the child's grown and decides, I don't want to have anything to, because now you're able to decide
You have
who
autonomy.
you want to have a relationship with, and you
Yeah.
say you don't want to have a, they start looking all surprised and wondering where that came from.
Yeah. Yeah. After everything I've done for you. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I always say, because I've heard that before, and I always say, well, who's going to do it? I didn't get asked to be brought into this world. That
Yeah.
was solely your choice. So
Yeah.
that means I'm your responsibility. So it's the
Yeah.
same way I look at it. My kids, they were my decisions. They didn't have a say in it, right? So they are my responsibilities to protect, to raise, to ensure that
Mhm.
they, they're well-rounded individuals.
Yeah.
That's all I could do.
Yeah, absolutely. There's 2 things I wanna say just, in this story, but even hearing you speak. The first thing is just, like, Australia, like, I don't for me, you don't get any fancier than that. But it's interesting how we don't like, in this story, you think Australia changes the situation. No, it just relocated it.
Yes. It's
It
just
just
the location that changed.
Yeah, yeah, and that just says, it's human nature, like, you carry what you're used to, but it also says something
Absolutely.
about our culture and the strength of it and how it's just, like, enforced sometimes without people thinking about it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Yeah, but even what you said about sitting I wanna replay that. I have a way I'm imagining how that conversation went. Obviously, I wasn't there, so I'm definitely being creative in my mind, but sitting down with your son with that opportunity for football, which here in the US we say soccer, but
Yeah.
football, I find just the simple things you said. What if it doesn't work? What's your plan? Right? You forced your child to think like an
To think.
adult.
Yeah,
You forced him to do that. You forced him to anticipate the future. Those are mature and intellectual things that you forced on your child. I know force is a strong word,
yeah.
but you introduced him to with very simple questions. You know, it's kind of like an interview, and you kind of put him in the you put him in the driver's seat, right? And I have the need to say that just because I'm trying to pull out the practical skills, right?
Yeah.
You put him in the driver's seat. You questioned him. What are you thinking about this? Okay, then you negotiated. You were like, what I want for you is what we know works. Academics, right? Let's just talk about it like from a statistical point of view. You
Yeah.
know, in traditional academics, we see more people going there and, being able to independently lead their lives. What I want for you is for you to have a level of academics, and even if it's not even that, but for you to have useful skills on the market, right?
Yeah.
And you're taking that desire and negotiating with a new desire, which is I want to do football, right? And the other thing I think that the reason why I think that's so brilliant, especially from a Nigerian parent in diaspora, is oftentimes our traditional expectations from academics push us in these lines. It's not even just about the four options, but
Yeah.
they push us in these lanes without us actually taking advantage of the new things that our new environment open up for us.
Yes. And just to say, so the college we talk about, right?
Yeah.
There's also a vocational college. So it's both academic and vocational. So,
Ah,
yes. So I'm not one of those that you've got to be. The only thing that I was big on was his O levels, which is
sure.
GCSEs,
Yeah,
because that's the barest minimum
sure.
that you would need to just kind of thrive in this world.
Yeah.
Absolute barest minimum. So even if you wanted to be a plumber, you need O levels, you need your
Useful skills.
GCSEs.
Yeah. Useful
Exactly.
skills.
So that was it for me. So also because maybe because as someone who's dyslexic, I kind of recognize also his strengths, and he's not somebody who's patient enough to,
Mm.
he's more a kinesthetic learner. So he's a
Yeah.
lot better when you show him certain things. So I'm not even pushing him down the academic line. For
Uh,
me, college includes vocational college, as long as you do something. So for me, it's finding what to do,
yeah.
and I don't want him to be a one trick pony, which is, just focused just on football. Because
Yeah.
again, like I said, we know how that industry is.
Yeah.
So hence the option. But like I said, that includes vocational college.
And Rose, I'm sorry. You just unloaded something. You said, let me just say it. My son is a kinesthetic learner. A lot of Nigerian parents, first of all, may not even understand what you mean by that. Second of all, may not even understand that they have to understand that about their child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So can you talk to us about that? Like, how did you know to look for that in your child? What did you do?
Like I said, maybe because I'm dyslexic.
Right.
So when he was growing up, I did try to read to him a lot.
Yeah.
He was compared to his sister, which I also don't like comparing, but
Yeah.
compared to his sister, she loved books.
Yeah.
Um, I like books because they make my office look nice, but I hardly ever read them. Yeah, I've got to be honest. Yeah, so I'm more now. I'm an ebook person, audiobook. So I'm obsessed with audiobooks because
Yeah.
it makes it easier for me. So I'm cooking. I'm just. So
Yeah.
maybe because I was dyslexic, so for me, it was somewhat easier to spot. So he liked building blocks. He would rather we did something than just sit down to read. Or if I gave him a book and I said, "Oh, read it to me," you'd see him be a little distracted and, just be easily bored, which was me most of the time. So when he was in, well, we call it here years, I guess you guys call them grades.
Yeah.
So when he was in year 5, it was a discussion that I had with his teacher, and I said, I'd like to get him tested just to kind of, make sure. And the results still did come back.
Yeah.
Yes, he's not in any spectrum, but they did note that yes, he is easily distracted. And again, it could be some form of neurodivergent, but so focus on, pictures, things that interest him, actually using his hands to do stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's awesome. I love it. All right. there, and when we were having our, pre-conversation, you mentioned a big word, T word, trauma. Right.
Yeah,
I want to quote something you wrote in one of your writings. You said, a lot of what we Nigerians call culture was trauma dressed up in Ankara and quoting Bible verses. Again, simply said, but power. So I think there's a lot we have to break down in that statement. So, first thing, in the context of Nigerian parenting, I think we've mentioned it before, but
yeah,
I actually think we should talk about it. What are the things that are passed down as cultural standards that are actually trauma? And I want to talk about it because there are things we say that is just culture. Sometimes we even celebrate them proudly, but it's
yeah,
actually trauma. So, in your
yeah.
opinion, what would you say are some of those things that are culture, but they're actually trauma?
Oh gosh, where do I begin? I know it's hard. I think the so I don't know if you'd read one of the things I wrote about sparing the rod and spoiling the child.
I haven't. What can you share, please?
Okay, so spare the rod and spoil the child. And so again, those trauma things are smacking your child.
Yeah.
So we don't know how to have conversations. We use our hands, and that's also because the scripture in the Bible that talks about the rod and the has kind of been twisted to suit humans. So if you think about the concept of the rod, that was used by shepherds, and what was it used to do? To
Guide.
guide.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But we've talked about it in terms of you've got to use that rod to whip them into shape, or you'll spoil your child.
That is a
Um,
twist. That is a twist.
so again, so then the yelling,
Yeah.
it's become almost normal,
Yeah.
right? Where and again, I remember for me it was there was okay, I have these moments where things happen and I'm like, oh my God, I'm my mother. And I think as my son did, and I was yelling, and I was
Yeah.
saying something, but to him I was yelling, and he said, "Oh, mom, you don't have to shout. I can still hear you."
Yeah.
And my first instinct was, "Who are you talking to like that?"
Yeah.
But I stopped because he was right. So again, it's that thing where we feel like to pass the seriousness of what we're saying across. We've got to yell, got
Yeah.
to shout at them.
Yeah.
Um, I would also say, as part of our culture, we do this blind respect thing. I
Mm.
am not a fan. I feel the respect needs to be
Yeah.
earned,
Oh,
even from children.
yes. Okay.
So, yes, so, we have talked a little bit about manipulation here. And again, when you talked about the auntie and uncle thing, and how sometimes some people can abuse that privilege. My children are very clear. If somebody makes you uncomfortable, if somebody talks to you in a way that you don't like, let's have a conversation about it. I will have a conversation with them,
Yeah.
because sometimes we just assume that automatically kids need to be respectful, and we as adults don't have to be respectful. That
Yeah.
doesn't work for me. It,
Yeah.
it goes both ways.
Yeah.
So you respect them and they respect you. It's a
Yeah.
simple, you don't automatically earn that. So I'd say those are, a couple of the things that I also feel that we need to, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe refine a little bit.
It's easy it's easy just to think, oh, you're all millennials, you're so woke, you're so, but I do think this stuff is ingrained in us that sometimes I see sometimes a millennial parent, or just parent of a young one struggle to defend their child in the face of someone that has actually done something that's violatory towards their child
Yeah,
in the Nigerian context. So this is very, very powerful stuff that we should be rethinking and negotiating, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. I want to talk about the obedient child. You mentioned it earlier. Yeah. And it's a cultural, and it's kind of like with this one too, right? You know, you're respectful at all costs. You're obedient. They're older. You do what they say. Um, hmm, where do we get that right? And let me just say that obedience is great, but
Uh,
are there things we need to start questioning as far as like enforcing that as the standard? You know?
yeah. I don't obedient. I don't know. Again, it's one of those things that I feel needs context.
Yes.
um,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
I guess.
I
I,
just
yeah.
yes, I because I'm sure you've seen the Good Child article that I
Yeah.
wrote.
Yeah. So
Was that
actually, I have questions. One about the obedient child. One about the good child. So let's just merge it together. Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
So in most Nigerian homes, the good child or the obedient child, because they kind of sometimes are used
There's an
interchangeably.
overlap.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It means the quiet one, the one who doesn't talk back, the one who doesn't question, the one who doesn't embarrass the family. That was clearly
Mm,
not me. Um, but if we're honest, this is just well behaved performance,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because what then happens is that we confuse obedience with goodness,
Yeah.
right? Oh, a child never disagrees. We forget that a child who never disagrees might just be afraid.
Yeah.
Right. So not because exactly, and not because they're good or they're obedient, they're just afraid and they've just been, conditioned to be people pleasers.
Yeah.
Right. So just to kind of go back, because it's just come to me now when you said some of the things that I think that we should keep. I talked about respect, hard
Mm,
work,
yeah.
and our community, because I do find that as a community, when we get it right, those are beautiful things and it works well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It totally works well because I do know a lot of Nigerians that I'm friends with that when things happen, like when I lost my dad, they came together as a community.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
those are things, especially in the West, because it's quite isolating.
Mm,
Where so I'm very again, this is one of the reasons I started the African Parent. It was to build a community that
yeah.
we shared values, shared interests, but shared culture, whatever that culture might be.
Yeah.
Because my dad's Igbo, my mom's Efik, which is Calabar,
Okay.
right? And those are two different cultures. So when
Yeah.
people say, "Where are you from?" I just say I'm not, and I lived in Lagos. And when
Yeah.
people say, "Where are you from?" I'm Nigerian. That's all you
Yeah.
need to know because
Yeah.
that covers
An
everything.
umbrella term. Yeah.
So, um, what going back to the obedience and the good child, right? I agree that again, another thing that I even as a woke parent, I use that term, is non-negotiable for me in our culture is respect.
Yeah. Sure.
Right? That's the one thing I ensure that my kids, have.
Yeah.
But silence should not be the price for respect.
Yes.
So when we tell children to always defer to adults, even when they're wrong, we're unintentionally teaching them to ignore their instincts. And that's very dangerous. And that's one of the things that I don't, I'm very clear with my kids. If you think
Yeah.
someone's wrong and you don't want to say it or you think it might come across, disrespectful, speak to me. I have a word. So I
Yeah.
think we need to shift from raising obedient children to actually raising wise, intelligent children. So
Yeah.
children who listen, who question, but still remain respectful.
Yeah.
Because we want our kids to use their voices without losing their value.
Yeah. Yeah. What's
Got the balance.
what's the cost of that thing of obedience coming with the what you're paying for obedience is silence. What's the cost of that realistically? Like in your opinion, like what I've seen
Yeah.
when you say instincts, right? Our parenting code, I think, like slowly but surely just numbs the child from their instincts. So you
Yeah.
get adults that are 30 and still unable to say, what job do I want? Who do
Yep.
I want to marry? Where do I want to live?
Yeah.
It's like there is a voice there, but they're so numbed from it because of the code that they've been raised in.
Yes. So you've raised people pleasers. So I'm uncomfortable with something, but I don't want to say it so that it doesn't offend, or I don't know how that person's going to take it. So in the job that I do, I see a lot of Nigerians and Africans who can't negotiate salaries. And
Mm.
I'm just like, speak up, say something. But it's because of how we've been raised.
Yeah,
We fear figures of authority. So we
yeah,
feel like I can't go and ask my boss for a raise. I know people who are in jobs that they absolutely hate, but they're too scared to leave or to
yeah,
say something and
yeah,
say, I don't like this, or this is how it makes me feel.
yeah,
So again, this is the cost of raising obedient or good children, in quote, is
yeah,
that we're not raising people who can navigate the real world that they're actually living in now, because they've just been raised to just not question anything and just go.
yeah, yeah. And even in just that example, asking for a raise, what you get in that perspective, in that context, is a very hard worker that does very good work, but isn't getting paid for their value.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, because we're hard workers.
Yeah, we are hard workers, and I keep saying that. Interestingly enough, I had a conversation with somebody at work, and they went for a promotion. They didn't get it, and her, thingy, because she'd asked me, "Feet, I work hard," and I said, unfortunately, the world that we live in does not recognize that. You can be the
Yes,
hardest worker if
it
that's not coming across in how you present yourself, and you're articulate. Because she struggles at that, which again I get, and this is why I sit in on these panels, because at work, and I'm an EDI rep. So I come in there and I always say, because there's certain cultural nuances that we have. Like, I remember I sat in on an interview and this guy was amazing, but the lady said, "Oh, he came across as a bit dishonest because he didn't have any eye contact." And I said, going from his name, I
yes.
can tell you that he's Nigerian, and where
We're
we
raised
come
like that.
from, it is a kind of respect not to look somebody straight
Yeah,
in that is disrespectful. So it's
yeah.
not because he was dishonest. So
Mm,
it's little things like that. So
yeah,
again, that's the lack of confidence. When you have the obedient child or the good child, you don't have that. You can't sit up straight. You can't look somebody in the eye and say, "This is what I want. This is why I think I deserve this, because this is, these are the things that I've done." So yeah,
yeah,
we
absolutely. My goodness, this is heavy. My goodness. All right. I want to talk about healing the
yeah.
parenting style, healing for someone who has been raised a certain way and the Nigerian way, and it costs some things. One of your writings, you said therapy is not on African, right? Can you unpack that? First of all, do you do therapy or have you had a season of therapy? What
Yeah.
led you to it? And how has it helped?
Ugh, okay. So, obviously, I grew up hearing, if something happens, you pray about it, eat something, you'll be fine. So, so I grew up thinking that therapy was for people who had lost it. Therapy was, I know you both think,
Yeah,
it wasn't meant for us,
yeah,
or, oh, you've got to be really comfortable to go for therapy. like
yeah.
your life must just be perfect and there's nothing else wrong with you that you
Someone
need
must
to
be
go.
dropping grapes in your mouth, right? You don't even pick up your own grapes.
Yes. Um, but after I became a mom, I think I started noticing my triggers,
Mhm.
moments where I'd shout or I'd just shut down for no reason,
Yeah,
and I didn't want my kids to associate love with fear or silence or anxiety,
yeah,
because again, the self-awareness is an amazing thing.
yes. And you
Yes.
are very self-aware, by
Yeah.
the way. Yeah,
So going to therapy was humbling for me, because I was carrying things that needed to be unpacked,
yeah,
but I thought I was broken, right? So it helped me to see, things differently. It also helped me to see my parents differently,
mm, wow,
yes. So as much as I didn't like a lot of the things that, they did, I think I've accepted that, maybe they weren't villains, I choose to say they were survivors,
yeah,
right? So I think it's given me compassion for them and for myself,
yeah,
because that's also allowed me to heal. right? Because I didn't want to carry that, yes, I got smacked as a kid, because it was also through therapy that I realized I had ADHD.
Wow.
So if you notice, I use my hands a lot. So I'm very, like I said, it's
Yeah.
so, because I remember my therapist said to me the first time, so my dyslexic diagnosis I got when I was in, well, high school. I was going to say college because you guys, your college is university.
Yeah.
So you do high school, then we have the gap in the middle where you go to college and then you go to university.
Oh,
So
wow. Oh, very
yes, yes.
interesting.
I was in college. So just after high school, I was in college, and one of my lecturers actually said, I think you're dyslexic. We're going to send you for blah, blah, blah. So that was when, and I got the support, which was amazing.
Yeah.
So for me, it was the reading. The words would, be all over the pages for me. So when I took exams, I had audio. So it was read to me and then I write the answers. Yes.
Mhm.
And then they gave me laptops because it was easier for me to
Yeah.
just type them. So again, not realizing that I was dyslexic because that wasn't picked up as a kid, and then also not realizing I had ADHD, because then that explained a lot of the things that I went through as a child.
Yeah.
And when they say, "Oh, she talks too much," and you ask too many questions, those were those things. Yes.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it just helped me to see them differently.
Yeah.
Like, they did with what they had or what they knew. So in my head, I thought, okay, they're not the villains. I'd just say they were survivors. So it just gave me compassion for them. So I'm not gonna lie. I think I always recommend therapy. I think just speaking to somebody, even if it's not
Yeah.
professional therapy, because even just
Yeah.
talking, what we're doing now is therapeutic.
Yes.
We're talking, we're learning, we're unpacking, which
Yeah.
is, I love that. I love unpacking. So I always say to, and because we weren't raised to share our problems,
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
weren't.
Yeah.
Again, this afternoon, I literally just had short conversation with a friend of mine, and I
Yeah.
said, we were raised to hide things, especially things that brought shame, in quotes, right? Because again, another thing I've written about and I'm very open about is, a situation that my son found himself in. I think I shared that with you when we
Yeah.
had our yes.
Yeah.
And I've spoken about it openly because I do hope that it helps another parent and they
Yeah.
don't have to go through all of the stuff that I went through, just to so spot the signs early, seek help, talk about it. I'm a big advocate. Communication, I I like that. I enjoy that because I feel like it helps to solve a lot of the issues that we have.
Yeah.
What we don't do well, especially as Nigerians, is communicate and communicate well, and we're clear. And that's also because we've been raised to be people pleasers. So we don't want to offend. So we then hold back, sometimes. So now, even as an adult, because we're human beings, and yes, there are things that will annoy us, all right? So if I have an issue, like maybe my other half or my sister who I'm really close to, I would say I'm not in a very good place now, so I don't want to talk, but I need us to talk about this later. So that
Yeah.
I don't go and say something that, is not very nice, because then
Yeah.
it's harder to take back. But I also don't want to have to talk about it when I'm not ready to talk about it,
Sure.
because then it's probably not going to come out the right way.
Yeah.
But we need to be clear about these things. And again, that's another thing that therapy has completely helped me to do. It's
Sure.
to, yes.
And as you're going through this process, obviously it's gonna create some type of evolution. Were you finding that I guess let me take a step back. How are other people experiencing you, right? Because I think when you become this person that's super self-aware and you're using phrases like "I'm not in a good place" amongst Nigerians, it's like, "Ah, what's all this now?"
Yes. So I, again, some of these things I always say comes with age.
Yeah.
So I'm now what I like to call on the wrong side of 40. So I can't now say I'm mid 40s anymore. No. Right. So, and And so with that, I think I've gotten to the I don't give a stage,
Yeah.
where I'd rather just, if something doesn't sit well with me, I'd say it.
Yeah.
And because it's not something that we're familiar with, some people don't know how to take it. So I have lost a few friends.
Yes. There's
Yes, just
cost.
because, yes,
There's a
because,
cost.
yeah, because I've chosen to be direct, and or there's been a behavior that I don't like. And I've said, I don't like this. I don't need this in my space,
Yes.
and, or given, honest, constructive feedback and it
Yeah.
hasn't been taken well.
Yeah.
Um, and again, because like I said, because I'm constantly evolving and growing. So the me you knew 5 years ago that would probably take something is now not me this,
Wow.
2025.
Love it.
And yeah, and so now again, that shocks a lot of people. And then also it helps you just kind of whittle out, who's there for the long run and who, is ready to go on that journey with you. Again, I don't necessarily need them to be, but I just say to people, where I am now in my life is here.
Yeah.
So, and this is what it looks like. So you're either in or you're not. So again,
Yeah.
it's all about choices and options.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this.
Uh,
You mentioned the situation with your son. I don't want to walk away from it. Are you comfortable sharing it here? And the reason why is like I'm in Chicago,
Yeah.
and I have friends who are raising, children in Chicago in different areas of Chicago, and Chicago gets its rep in the news for certain things, right? So, are you comfortable sharing what that instance was, what it taught you, yeah, and how maybe people can learn from that?
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about Chicago, my sister lives out there and she's raising
Ah,
three boys.
okay.
Yes. Raising three boys. So again, it's a constant worry for me because I always say to her, you can come back to the UK because she's British, but her husband's American. So we always talk about that. So this, I'm going to have to refer back to Raising the Obedient Child because that's what moved me to actually write that article. So it was about obedience or autonomy. So as I said, my son was raised differently to how my daughter was raised. And that's because when I had my daughter, I was in a different stage in my life. Yes. And I always jokingly say that the first kids are experiments, and that's how, so he is obedient. You tell him to do something, he will do it. He won't question. My daughter would question you and, make you think. And so in the UK, like everywhere else, they have gangs, and these gangs groom kids.
Yeah,
And they groom them to become to join the gangs and do things within the gangs.
yeah.
So he was approached by a gang member who asked him to. So first of all, they do like the little tests where go and nick something from the store.
Can you ride with
Um,
us essentially, right? Can you roll with
so
us?
yeah,
That's what
exactly.
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
And which he did. We have, but again, you can tell, you can see when a child's not very street smart. So it's silly and did it. He was wearing his, so in the UK schools, we wear school uniforms. So he was
Yeah.
wearing a school uniform. So CCTV picked that up.
Oh, dear. Yeah.
Yeah, contacted school. School contacted me. I did the, walk of shame, took him back to the store, made him pay for it. And that conversation then, and I said, so if I asked you to go to the store and nick that, would you do it? He said, no. I said, why not? He said, because it's stealing and it's not right. I said, but a complete stranger asked you to do that. Why did you think it was then okay? And what he said for me, I'm not going to lie, it hurt, but it was a conversation I then had to have with dad. And because he said, because they respect me and they listen to me. So it
Oh,
made me realize that he didn't feel like his voice was heard in the house.
oh, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So,
So
I'm not responding like that way as far as like, "Oh, what did you guys do?" I'm responding that way because it's like, this
I
is a
know,
Nigerian home. It's
yeah,
this is
yeah.
ah,
Even me thinking I was here, I'd given him an open platform. You could, and
oh god.
but so so we had to do a lot of work, because, and I have said this to you before, my dearest husband's very traditionalist. So there's me trying to parent, in this new way, and there's him trying to say, but there's certain things that, we still need to do. And I said, and I get that, but
Yeah.
it's how we do it that matters. It's
Yeah.
not the actual action, it's how we do it. So again, we had to, look at ourselves
Yeah.
because essentially he held a mirror to us and it wasn't pretty, I have to say.
Gosh.
Yeah, because he
Uh,
said, because they respect, I was just like, so
oh,
which is why, again, now when I say to him to or ask him to do something, and
yeah.
I'll be like, you okay with that? Is it,
Yeah.
do you want to talk about it? So again, it's giving him a chance because I also have to recognize that he's not used to being able to say something because he's grown up just thinking, I'm just going to go along with it. So now I'm trying to make sure that he actually has a voice. And I'm just like, so I say that because I remember when I had another conversation with him and I said, why didn't you feel comfortable to tell us that these people? And he said, because I didn't want dad to yell at me. And I said,
Yeah.
but you could have told me. He said, yeah, but you'll tell dad, which is, and I always tell my kids, if
Right.
something happens, I have to share it with
Yeah.
dad. And just so you know. And so I said to him, but okay, if you feel that we're going to yell or, dad's going to yell, send him a text and say,
Yeah.
Dad, I'm
Oh,
texting you
oh,
because I'm worried. I don't want you to yell at me, but I want you to read this and maybe we can talk about it when I
yeah.
said, because that person would read it, take their time. They now know that this is what you're scared of. So they're
Yeah.
not going to then come yelling at you. So
Right.
it's also putting
That's
things in
so
place to
cool.
kind of
I love
support
it. Yeah.
that.
Yeah. My
So
goodness.
yeah.
How old was your son when he was telling you that they respected me?
He was 14, he's 16 now, so this is about 2 years ago. So no, he had just turned 15.
Okay.
Literally, yes.
I wanted to mention that because 15 is young.
Yeah,
And we all say men and their respect, right? You may not necessarily think of a 15-year-old boy or young man, I should say, as a man per se, like that's going to go out and, take care of a family. But and I'm just saying that for millennial parents who have boys,
yeah,
right? The code for respect, it's a need, right? And he
yeah,
was showing that need. Yeah.
yeah.
My
That's
goodness.
essentially it. And I said to the other half, I said, they found something that we weren't giving him.
Yeah.
And they exploited that. It was just as simple as that. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. My
No,
goodness,
you're welcome.
I can really think about that. Just a little bit on healing. You
Yeah,
also made affirmation cards for African kids,
I
right?
did.
Can you share some? And yeah, just can you just share some examples, please? If one or two.
This was a while back,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
I'm trying to think back. Again, it was just one of those things, and the thought came from when my daughter, again, this is probably 3 years ago. So it
Yeah.
shows you how long I've been on this journey, and it's only recently I chose to share that.
Yeah, like, okay.
They were doing a cultural day, and so she said to me, she said, "Mom, there are not any teachers that look like me in my school," which is true. And then she said, and a lot of the pictures that I see don't represent me. And again, this is why I'm very big on representation matters.
Mm.
So that was what pushed me to get the affirmation cards done, which I shared with the school. And I did encourage them to kind of share with the students
Yeah.
because, again, it was just showing pride in their culture, showing pride in their heritage.
Yeah.
And, yes, they're British, but they're also Nigerian. And I didn't want it to feel like you had to pick a side because sometimes, the world makes you feel like you have to pick a
Yeah.
side. No,
Yes.
you can be both.
Yeah.
So it was just that, which was just, I guess, how would I put it? Honoring, our heritage and our culture, right? But then still showing her that, you know what, even as a child, you're amazing. I can't remember what all of them were now
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because, but yeah, so that's what made me do the affirmation cards.
But I love the proactiveness behind that and even that advocacy of going to school and saying, "Hey, can you?" That's not a Nigerian thing. It's not, especially like Western culture. I'm sorry. Like I've seen a lot of Nigerian parents that just think the Western school, the way they do it, it must be better. You
Yeah,
know? So,
And
but
that's the thing that I try to educate,
yeah,
a lot of our African parents is
yeah,
that don't always think that the school's right.
yeah,
Don't always think that the school is right. You know your child as well. And I do get that, sometimes, kids will go out there and they'll stain your white because they'll go and do something else that you
yeah,
didn't expect. So
yeah,
even when I'm challenging the school, I always say to them that I appreciate that she might be slightly different outside of the home.
yeah,
However, this is yes, I always acknowledge that because I always say to my kids, I don't want to go out there and be made to look the fool. So I always tell them. So if I get a letter, an email, which doesn't happen often from school, my first question is be completely honest with me because if I'm going in there with my full chest to go and defend you, it's got to be
mm,
the truth. Because I said to them, because let me tell you something, do you know who's going to be embarrassed? It's not me, it's you
yeah,
because the teacher's going to see you every day and know that, you know what, you're not very honest person because this is what you told your mom.
true.
So
And I love
I always tell them, yeah, it doesn't matter how hard it is or whatever there's nothing that you've done that can be so bad. So let's be honest, talk about it so we can find a solution. And then we'll work with the school to find a solution to that problem
yeah,
as long as you're honest. So yes, I teach my kids how to advocate for themselves. And
yeah,
that's also because I've shown them how I turn up for them
yeah,
every single time. I tell parents you have to do that because nobody else will.
yeah. Oh gosh, I love it. Goodness gracious. So on this in this conversation, you've given some practical skills already, like telling your children, you know, first of all, be honest with me. That's one. Two, if you're afraid I'm going to yell at you, send a text. Let me know how you're feeling on text. Because I think of myself as a parent, how would I receive that? Even though what I'm being told may be something I don't like. I've had some time ahead of time before I get to you to understand, oh, there's a
Yes.
situation. You know, there's a situation. Oh, and by the way, they actually came to me and told me about it, you
Yeah.
know? So that's a practical skill. You've given us a practical skill as far as like, okay, the opportunities that your children have that don't align with what you're used to, have a conversation. Find a way to put them in the driver's seat and still let them know your desires, but still put them in the driver's seat. Those are all very, very practical tools. Um, and one of my points of conversation was to ask for some practical tools. You've already dropped them. I guess one more question I would ask is for anyone who's listening to this conversation, a parent who's Nigerian,
Yeah.
if they were to try just one thing that you would say has revolutionized your parenting from the tools you've learned, right, for wholesome parenting, which will be the single action that will have the biggest generational effect?
Apologize to your child.
Apologize to your child. Tell
It
us more.
sounds small,
Yeah.
but it changes everything.
Yeah.
So, because again, as as Nigerians,
Yeah.
especially as Nigerian parents, we don't believe that we can be wrong towards our kids, right? As far as you're that authority. But saying I'm sorry does not reduce that authority. What it does is that it humanizes you.
Yeah.
It tells your child that power does not mean you're perfect, right?
Mm.
I've also found that, every apology for me, and this is personal,
Uh,
it breaks a bit of the shame cycle that we grew up with. And it's humbling because I
Beautiful.
honestly,
Beautiful. Please keep going.
no, when the first time I had to say it, again, it was my daughter
Yeah.
who, she had done, I thought she had done something. And instead of asking, I accused. Again, work in progress. And I said, and she said, no, but I didn't do it. I said, no, you must have. And da, da, da. And then when I found out, I said, oh, yeah, I found out it was in. And she said, well, I think you need to apologize. And I was like, yeah.
That's correct. The Nigerian parent is like, "Am I to answer to you?"
Yeah. Honestly, I thought I'm about to have one child left because it was just the way she said it. But then I thought, but she's right. Because at work, this is what I say to people,
Mm.
right? If you're wrong, just say, I hold up my hands, why can't I do it? But that's also
Yeah.
because it wasn't something I grew up with,
Yeah.
right? Yes. So it, it has, what it's done is taught me empathy. It
Yeah.
has taught me accountability. And again, that emotional safety, right? Which is also giving that to my kids, that emotional say with the way we say, I'm really sorry. And I always say to them now, please don't sing it, just, make it. No,
Yeah.
actually say it, look the person in the eye and mean it.
Yeah.
So, like I said, empathy, accountability, and that emotional safety. And those are three things that every African home needs more of.
Yeah. Okay.
So all those three things are summed up in let's learn to apologize.
Just learn to apologize. That's beautiful.
Yes.
When you answered, you said power doesn't mean you're perfect. Do you think Nigerian parents, or maybe parents in general, underestimate the amount of power and influence they have over their children?
They overestimate the amount of power and influence they
Oh no,
have.
well, no, I guess what I'm saying is, yes, okay, I understand your answer, but I think I'm saying, do you think Nigerian parents don't realize the impact they can have with their behaviors, right? Like
Yes.
it has a lot of power. And I
Yeah.
think if we're more aware of how much my yelling, my the yelling, the numbing your instincts, if we're aware of how much power that has, not just in that instance, but for like years to come, do you
Yeah.
think we might change our approach to things?
I I don't know because I
Oh
think
gosh.
that no, and the thing is I think that we need to want to change and I don't think a lot of people are ready for that.
Okay.
So I think that most people know, but they just don't want to do the work because it is work. You're
Work.
not just going to wake up one day and then, decide that, I want to, be empathetic or, I want my child to hold me accountable
Yeah.
because it's uncomfortable. It is. And that's the thing that we're not ready for. So we feel like we have to be, figure of authority and, we have to my kid has seen me cry, and I
Yeah.
say to him, "That's because 'cause I'm human, and
Yeah.
that's okay." You're allowed to show your emotions. You're a human being. I don't think I'd ever seen my dad cry,
Yeah. Yeah.
ever.
Me
Do
too.
you see what I mean?
Me
The
too.
only time, I saw my mom cry was at a funeral.
Same.
So
Me
yes.
someone passed.
So
That's it.
we're not ready. A lot of people are not ready to do the work. That's what it is. We need to be ready to do the work. And I
Yeah.
think that when more kids start to speak up, excuse me, and probably challenge, their parents,
Yeah.
maybe they might see, because it's a case of, well, you lose me if if this happens, or I'd want you to do this because this is how it makes me feel. But remember, again, we're also raising obedient kids who just do and wait till they leave home to
Mhm.
then try to be their authentic selves.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, and
yeah,
there's such a delay in that.
yeah,
There's such a delay in that. Oh my goodness. All right. We can keep talking for hours, but
I know.
here's my last question. Can you finish this statement? When my children are 35, I hope they will say this of me. Yeah.
I hope they would say, Mom didn't try to be perfect. She was present.
Oh, beautiful. I love that.
That's that's all I try to be. I try to be there. And I also hope they would say that she loved us loudly and she listened even louder.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a beautiful one. Loved us loudly. That's
Because
okay.
there's nobody that knows me that doesn't know how I show up for my kids.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
so even if there's a culture day at school, I will take time off work because
Yeah.
that's what's important and I will
Yeah.
show up.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm also trying to teach them that culture isn't a cage, it's a compass. It's supposed to guide you,
Yeah.
through life. It's not supposed to cage you. So, yeah.
Miss Ann Rose, we need a book from you.
No.
I know, maybe I don't know how it's gonna happen, but please, we need a book from you. We do. We do. We do. Okay, how can people find you? Where can they get more of your insights online
So
or
Yeah, I'm on Substack. I'm on the African Parent or Bold and Rooted. If you search that, you'd see that. I have a website called theafricanparent.org.
All right.
And then I'm also on Instagram, and I've recently started trying TikTok.
I did too. I'm struggling with TikTok. Okay.
I can't. So yes, but my social media manager insists that I will do TikTok. But yeah, so but if you search theafricanparents.org, it has all of our social media links on there.
Awesome.
Yes, and it does have some resources that you can look at and download and contact me if you need to have a conversation.
Absolutely. Well, Anne Rose, I want to thank you so very much. Such a conversation that speaks to our core. And thank you for your insights and practical tools.
Yeah.
Dear Nigerians, reach out to Anne Rose, look up The African Parent. And yeah, thank you so much. And
thank you for this platform as well, Aramide. I had an amazing time just having this conversation.
Yes,
it's like a chat.
Same, very, very much so. Thank you so much.
All right, then. Have a good day. Speak to you soon. Bye.